Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Joe and Sophie Tell a Tale. I'm your co-host, Joe Ramshaw.
And I'm your full host, Sophie Ramshaw.
You are not the full host. Please stop that. So, what do Joe and Sophie Tell a Tale. Roll intro. Joe and Sophie tell a tale. We'll try our best, but we'll probably fail. So come with us, cause we're about to set sail. Let's Joe and Sophie tell a tale. Poor fools. What? I'm gonna ask you what.
Okay.
What are we talking about today?
Fonts!
Fonts, or
The F word.
oh no, oh dear,
Ugh.
the F word, fonts. Oh, fontificate.
I hate you.
So, yes, that is correct, Soph Madoge. If anyone out there has ever opened a Word document, you just start typing away.
Yeah.
You don't, you're just writing.
Yeah.
But what happens?
Words come up.
Words come up.
They appear in the space of blank.
Exactly. But they always come up in different fonts.
Well, it's usually the one.
Usually
And
it's
then
the
you
one
pick.
font. Now, I've just opened up a Word document on my personal home computer. And the one that comes up for me is Calibri.
Yep.
Calibri body. Do you get the same?
Yep, but I change it because I hate that one. So.
Yeah, I actually like Calibri. I like Calibri body.
Well, it's just a sheep. That's what you are.
Yeah, I just like the generic writing ones because otherwise I feel like I'm getting a bit too big for my boots, you know?
Well, I'm not saying I go over on all like the fancy like running writing ones. I think when I was a kid, I loved that. I was like, oh, this makes me feel so smart.
It's so sophisticated.
Yeah,
sophisticated.
Like any of like the really like swirly ones.
I know.
But
yeah.
now I'm just like I go with the ones that look a bit more not medieval, but like
It's weird medieval fonts.
yeah, more very like rigid and like old textbook style.
Yeah. You like Bookman Antiqua? Is that what it's called?
What?
Bookman Antique. There's one called Bookman Old Style. Like Bookman Old Style.
Yeah, that one's cute, but that's not the one.
There's Book Antiqua.
Whoa.
Yeah. Look
No,
at
my
that.
favorite
that's good font.
is Liberation Serif.
Liberation Serif. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Liberation Serif was a free alternative to Times New Roman because Times New Roman is a proprietary proprietary font owned by Word or only offered Windows, whatever. And Liberation Serif is like the free alternative to Times New Roman. And I know a little bit about this because I was researching Times New Roman, something I never thought I would ever do in my lifetime.
Fun times.
I know. This podcast has just taken us into some wild, crazy worlds. And this has got to be one of the craziest.
Yeah.
Fonts is
this one's wild. It's gonna be crazy. Right.
You could say that this topic is a font of interesting information. Like a fountain, like a font.
No, that's not a thing.
It is. It's a font
of. You can't make up a pun that's not
a thing.
Pun.
People out there know what I'm talking about. My homies, my home dogs, my font homies.
No one says that.
Okay, so we're talking about fonts.
Yes.
Now we've both sort of come up with some interesting facts, haven't we, about fonts? Because it's one of those things
that we didn't tell each other what our
each other's topics.
Yeah, what our topics were going to be.
Yeah,
but we each chose a different font to talk about.
It is funny, yeah. I had a feeling that because I thought I'm going to look up Times New Roman because that's the first font that always pops into my head is Times New Roman.
That would be my favorite then if we're going by like what's not the cheap knockoff one, which is Liberation Serif.
Liberation Serif. But Liberation Serif is different because during my
slightly,
you can it's like got a squarer design. It seems to sort of fill out the space a little bit more, and the italic version seems to be a bit more upright than the Times New Roman one, which is much more slanted. Tall letters. Tall slender letters. Yep. Yeah. Tall slender lettuce. It just made me want a salad.
Who wants a salad? Ever.
A tall slender salad. Well, anyway, digressions aside.
Lettuces aside.
Yeah, lettuces aside. Let's talk about fonts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this glorious world of fonts.
Do you want to talk about your first one then? The old Times New Roman?
Yes, I do. Times New Roman. Now, the thing about Times New Roman is it's very interesting. But to fully appreciate what Times New Roman is all about, we have to kind of talk about the difference between serif and sans serif. right?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so I thought I had maybe a vague inkling, but then I was just like, if we're going to be talking about...
I just thought they misspelled sheriff.
Yeah. Well, you could say that Times New Roman is the sheriff of the fonts. Like, he's out there. He's on the front line. He's making sure all the fonts are doing...
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew. He's pewing.
Yep.
That would be more a wingdings kind of thing. That's probably, like, if you spell out sheriff, it's like little guns or something.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Basically, a serif is the little loopy bits, so little strokes that come off the longer strokes in a letter.
This is going to be so hard to explain without visuals.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So in a font like Times New Roman, there's the little flourishes. So you have like the A. You know how in like at the bottom of the letter A, it'll have like a little base? You know, not just like the diagonal bits of a letter A. They'll go down to the bottom of the line, right? Of the page that you're writing on. And then sometimes they'll have like a little nubbin or like a little, just like a little like foot a little foot. Yeah, exactly.
Prong
for each prong of the A.
Anyone who does like block writing or anything, especially for those old fancy ones like Time New Roman. Yeah. They always have those little prongs.
Exactly, and that's how That's what
a serif is? That's
what a serif is. A serif is those little things. And that's how serifs actually originated, was for inscriptions in I guess in like gravestones and in for some reason that was the
chiseling.
Chiseling, whittling.
Whittling, yeah.
Whittling, yeah. So that's what a serif is, right? And a sans serif font is a font that is sans the serif. It doesn't have the serifs. Oh. So when you have...
Just call it non-serif. Damn.
Well, that's what sans means.
Yeah, but like, come on.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Non-serif. I don't know. They wanted the alliteration. They wanted to be sans serif. So, yeah, basically that's the difference. Is you get fonts that have serifs and fonts that don't have serifs. I prefer fonts that don't have serifs, personally. That just makes me, it's just like generic. There's no extra embellishments in the letters. I can just focus on my writing. I can do what I like without being distracted by all these weird little serifs floating around everywhere.
I like the serifs.
You like serifs?
They comfort me in my dark hours.
All of those serifs are just little friends.
My little buddies. My only friends. No, they I don't know, it just looks very comforting and neat when I write. It's all like bordered kind of feels like a border beneath them, and it's just something about it.
It is very aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I will give you that. So, did you know that sometimes sometimes the sans serif fonts are referred to as Gothic or grotesque, which I think seems harsh. But I don't know about you.
Saying that as if it's like a person.
Yeah, I know. It's just like I find them grotesque.
They are though, actually. Actually, if you would think about it, seems like the opposite. I don't think when I think Gothic writing, I'm thinking like every single bit is a serif.
Exactly. That's what I thought as well. To be honest, I thought when I think of Gothic art or Gothic architecture or whatever, I think about those embellishments and
like
those
steeples everywhere.
But I even tried Googling, Gothic font, and the font that comes up is fonts that are full of embellishments and full of serifs.
So what the hell is this person talking about?
I think it's referring to it's like a specific style of typeface that is called Gothic. It must have something to do with some kind of tradition where the letters are like very tall or something. I don't know. You know how in Gothic it's like like Gothic architecture, the buildings are very tall. There's tall ramparts and those and balustrades and steeples and stuff.
Parapets.
So, I think that's why it's considered the grotesque or the Gothic. I don't know. Yeah, for some reason in my head, but now that term is, has the connotation of you thinking about, little gargoyles and elaborate scroll work and stuff like that. The Goths took it for themselves, now, exactly. This is where Times New Roman comes in, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, Times New Roman out of all the fonts, is very controversial. Actually,
not I don't think as big as the one I'm going to bring up.
Oh, you're going to talk about Eric Gill.
What?
No? Oh, okay. All right. Oh, that's going to be exciting. Later, I'm going to talk about Eric Gill.
Excuse me?
There's a man named Eric Gill who made a... no, you're going to talk about Comic Sans, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, there's a guy named Eric Gill who invented a different font called Gill Sans.
I hate him.
But he's also like an extreme sexual deviant.
Oh my god.
And like, of course he is. Yeah, he's like alleged to have, just like odd relationships with family members and his dog.
Sodomized people with letters.
With letters.
Also, what?
Also his dog.
Yeah, what?
I don't know if you heard that
That's
bit,
the
but
bit
his dog.
Whatting it?
Gil Sands.
Oh.
Anyway, so the first transitional font was called Roman de Roy, which is some language for the King's Roman. Now, this font was commissioned by King Louis XIV for use by the Royal Print Office in 1692.
Oh, damn.
Now, you think I would have done some research about this because I'm not actually sure where he was king of. It might have been France. It might have been France, I think.
One of them European places. There,
Roman
kings, you know.
Roman de Roy. Actually, I feel like that might be French, but it would probably be Roman de Roy. De Roy. Because it's OI, but anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway, so Times New Roman. Here's the story of Times New Roman. It was invented by British newspaper The Times. The Times.
Oh.
In 1931. So this guy named Stanley Morrison worked for a company called Monotype, and he would advise with the Times. You know, he would help them out with their fonts and stuff. So anyway, one day they were like, "Yeah, we want a new font. Like, we want to get rid of our old sort of spindly, old-fashioned, really thin letters. We want something more robust and better." So they went to Stanley Morrison, who worked for Monotype, and he said, "Yep, I'll do it." So he suggested getting a thicker, more robust font. So then a guy named Victor Lardent, he was the artist who worked for the Times advertising agency, or the Times advertising department. He drew the new font, basing it on an old Monotype typeface called Plantin. So this company, Monotype, had this old sort of style that they probably didn't use that much anymore, and he sort of got that, and he made it a little bit different, added some serifs, and he was like, "This is going to be the new font for the Times."
Imagine creating a font.
That would be so cool.
Like, what? Like, when I just sit down, like, my handwriting's my handwriting.
I actually,
What genius looked at it and went, "I'll sell this."
I'll sell this. I'll
Like,
make that my own.
How does that even work?
Actually, while I was researching this, I was kind of, I don't know why, and I don't know if this is even a thing, but I was hoping I was going to come across some kind of story of, like, the font was, like, Times New Roman or something was originally given as a gift to some, like,
What?
to some king or something in, like, the 16th century or something. I don't know, like, that's
You
how I
have to
imagined
write
it.
in this now.
Yeah, it's like, this font is a gift. It's like, imagine if you took that as a gift to someone and you were like, yeah, this is your gift. This is how you write now.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's your birthday and your Christmas.
I can't do another one.
But yeah, so that was Stanley Morrison. So that was how they invented the typeface. So it was supposed to be all of their newspapers, the Times, were going to be written in this new typeface, and they were. They're not anymore. They've changed it. They've updated it and everything. But you know, for a good while there, it was Times New Roman, and that's why it's called Times. The Times.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
But get this. This is where the most interesting part of the story comes in. In 1994. A printing historian named Mike Barker published a claim that Times New Roman was actually based on an original design by a guy named William Starling Burgess.
Starling?
So, not Starling. Starling.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So this Burgess dude worked in a shipyard, and he supposedly invented a typeface to use for his, like, company documents, you know, just company memos and, you know, contracts and stuff like that. So he asked the company Monotype, remember, which Stanley Morrison worked for. So he asked Monotype to help him issue the typeface, you know, to, like, help him get it out into the world. But obviously, eventually Burgess gave up on the idea, and Monotype put the sketches that Burgess had made. He put Burgess's sketches away in a file somewhere, you know, down in the archives. So then Morrison, who worked for Monotype, remember, dug out Burgess's old sketches and used them as the basis for Times New Roman. That was Mike Barker's theory. So basically, according to Barker, Morrison and Lardent copied Burgess's design and passed it off as their own.
Oh.
So I
Drawing
read somewhere.
theft.
I know. Yep. Font theft. Font
I
theft.
like that more.
So basically, that theory remains controversial. Like, everyone kind of thinks there's not much to it, but apparently the actual website, if you go onto the Times website, and it has, like, information about the font and information about Times New Roman, and you can click on it, and apparently down the bottom it says theft. No, down the bottom it says Times New Roman created by Stanley Morrison, Victor Lardent, and possibly Starling Burgess.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like, maybe. Oh, actually, the funny bit was, did I write this somewhere? Oh, yeah. So there was a guy who was a friend of Burgess's originally, back in the day, named Gerald Giampa. So he worked for Monotype, and he was friends with Burgess, and he said that he had evidence that the font was originally Starling Burgess's, but he kept it in his house, in his basement, and then his house flooded, so he didn't have it anymore.
Right, flooded.
Yeah, but then he also said...
Flooded or
exactly.
urinated on, right? Like...
It's always one of them. But he also said that they had more evidence, but that it was located in a certain area of the Smithsonian Museum that had to be evacuated because of asbestos leakage or whatever.
Asbestos, right? Or urinating.
Or urinate. He's just going around peeing on everything. So yeah, it's like they have all this evidence, but apparently it's like not anywhere. It's like, oh, it either got flooded on or urinated on or asbestos to death. But anyway, a lot of people were kind of like, nah, he's just like some kind of font spy who was like trying to screw up the reputation or whatever. And
spend your time thinking of like font theories.
I don't know. Why do we spend our time reporting on font theories?
Because I'm sad.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say about Times New Roman. But I do have one other interesting fact that I gleaned from Wikipedia. Did you know? So the use of serifs, the swirly bits, the little embellishments.
It's not swirly.
Sometimes they're swirly.
Well,
actually, in Times New Roman, if you ever,
gothic about it.
you grotesque, you. If you ever, a fun activity for people to do at home, get out your Word document. Kill your family.
You cannot.
So
don't
do that.
That's not on us.
That's not on us.
You've got issues.
Yeah, get out your Word document. Get onto Times New Roman. Draw the letter Y. At the very bottom of the letter Y, so the long bit that goes under, down to the next line.
The Y bit.
At the very bottom, it ends.
The bit that makes it not a U.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. The very bottom, there is a serif, but it's curled into a tiny little ball, and that little ball is called a ball terminal. Just a little interesting fact for all you at home. But anyway, so yeah, Times New Roman is among other things known.
I can't believe they have names for these little bits on.
I know.
Calm down.
Calm down, people who do this kind of thing. Okay, so interesting fact. The use of serifs originated in inscription, as I said before, so chiseling, all that kind of thing. So it was never used in handwriting because, obviously not. You wouldn't use serifs, you just draw.
Oh, okay.
The exception is the letter I in uppercase. So the uppercase I, which uses serifs to distinguish from a lowercase l, because otherwise it would be exactly the same.
Yeah, today.
The other ones, also capital J. You draw a line at the top, that's a serif. And the numeral for 1. Because the numeral 1 would also be the same as the uppercase I and a lowercase l. So you draw a little serif in, which is like the little base or a little loop at the top or whatever. Little bit at the top. So that's a little interesting little tidbit for you.
Little fact there.
That's it, yeah.
Cool bit.
So that's my interesting topic for today. So what have you got for me,
Well,
sir?
I'm talking about Comic Sans.
Okay.
I'm a meme chick. I'm from the 90s, kind of.
You're a millennial?
Shut up. Actually, no, I think I'm not actually classified as a millennial because I was born in 1998. I think that makes me like the new people, and I don't like that.
Isn't it Generation Z or
I don't care,
something like that? That's
like it.
You're TikTok.
Oh, no.
You're just human embodiment of Tick Tick.
Vines.
I accidentally called it Tick Tick.
Tick Ticks.
You're Tick Tick.
You're Tick Tick.
Tick Tick Tock.
You're Tok Tok then.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Tick Tick and Tok Tok Tell a Tale.
Tick Tick and Tok Tok Tell a Tale.
Too many T's.
Tick Tick and Tok Tok Tell a Tick Tock.
Too many T's and too many serifs. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. T's have serifs.
I know.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with that. Yeah, so, we are, I don't know if you're familiar with the Doge meme.
Yep, that cute corgi.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
it's not corgi. It's
not a corgi?
Other animal.
It's still a dog.
It's a dog.
Other species of creature.
Shibu Inu is what it was.
Shibu emu. What is a Shibu emu?
Just because you're Australian, that means you need to bring in emus into this.
Emu?
Shibu Inu. Oh, I can't even say it now because you messed me up. Shibu Inu. Whatever. It's a dog. And
Doge.
in that Doge meme, it's always the Doge's face.
Yep.
The dog's face like,
Yeah.
And around it is like who dis and stuff like that.
Oh,
written in colourful Comic Sans.
That's
Comic
right.
Sans is what I'm going to be talking about.
That's why you're talking about Comic Sans.
Because it is the asshole of fonts.
Okay.
It is putrescent and I hate it. And what I wrote, I'm just going to be talking about Comic Sans.
Please do.
But what I specifically wrote down on my notebook is why do old people and out-of-touch business owners love Comic Sans?
They do, yeah. And it's always yellow or red or
red,
orange or something. Yeah.
Like, out the front of a shop, it's always like, be back in 15 minutes, and it's written in Comic Sans.
Yeah,
it's
with like tons of exclamation marks.
Do you need to be that guy?
Yeah.
Like, why? I'm not going to your shop now because of that.
I know. Imagine if it was written in Gill Sans, though. Then you'd just be like, oh, he's off having sex with his dog.
He's a bestialityist.
Yeah.
What's the name for that? Is there...
Beastophile?
That makes sense. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a term for it. But anyway.
He who lays with dogs. Go on.
He who shall not sleep with emus, but does it.
But does all the same.
But I absolutely hate Comic Sans, and I found a bunch of, as I was researching this, or researching, you know, if you want to be normal.
Well, were you researching it, or were you searching it again, which means you would have been researching it?
Is that actually the difference? I just thought
I don't know. No, I think it's just the same word pronounced differently.
Yeah. So it was like potato and potato, you know?
Yeah.
Tomato and potato.
Who says potato? Seriously.
I know.
I do. I say orangutan.
And Batman. Snowman.
Snowman.
He can't speak right.
I used to pronounce Monopoly, Benopoly, but only just to annoy people.
Well, yeah, it annoyed me.
I thought it would just be a fun little quirk when I was a kid. I was just, I'm just going to start pronouncing it Benopoly and just see if anyone notices. And Mum was just like,
Stop it.
Stop it. Stop it immediately.
I don't know why I said that like,
Do it.
No, like, stop it.
Stop it. Like Richard Nixon.
No, I was going to say,
Stop it.
Sheriff Connolly.
Billy Connolly? But Sheriff Connolly.
Sheriff Connolly. No, Bond.
What?
Bond.
Oh, Sean
Connery.
Sean Connery.
Sheriff Connolly.
Sheriff Connolly. What the hell?
Stop it. It took me so long to get
Stop
to that.
it, Moneypenny.
But
okay, yep.
Anyway, so Comic Sans was created in a year. I'm not going to tell you which one because that comes into our quiz time later. I'm going to quiz you on that, and it'll be too obvious for me to say. But it was invented, you know, as these fonts somehow are now.
Yeah.
And it came with Microsoft Windows 90 something. I'm not.
You've just outdone yourself with research for this episode.
I can't say that. Initially, it was used as a supplement font in the Windows Plus pack. I don't know what that is.
That sounds fun.
You know, like DLC for fonts. I don't know. And later, it was used in the Microsoft Comic Chat, which again, I don't know. Like, am I too hip and young to know what the Microsoft Comic Chat was?
Comic Chat.
You don't even know.
No.
Actually, I'm gonna quickly click it because it's here. What is it?
It's got a link.
Yeah.
Let's find out what Microsoft Comic Chat is. Oh, I'm excited.
Not to be confused with WinChat. It's a graphic IRC client It's a person? Created by Microsoft, first released with Internet Explorer. Comic Chat was developed... I don't care who developed
I'm assuming it's some kind of AOL
Whatever.
chat
I stopped caring.
interface
I stopped caring when I started talking about it.
Okay, good.
So it says the typeface's widespread use, which was often used in situations for which it was not intended. So it was
Still to this
it was
day.
quite a comic font.
Sans?
You know, because of the Comic Sans. It was meant to be or comic booky and things. It was actually originated from the style of comic books. So the designer of the font, his name was Vincent something. Does that say Conan? I can't even read my own writing because I suck.
Wait, let me see it.
Vincent Conair, sorry.
Conair.
Yep.
Okay.
Vincent Conair. So he was the designer of it. He invented it, and he said this about the font and why, you know, what he had to say about how people hated it so much. He said, "If you love it, you don't know much about typography. If you hate it, you really don't know much about typography either, and you should get another hobby."
Oh, what?
So, I don't know, that guy's just a douche.
He's
like, if you like it, you're idiot. If you hate it, idiot. Do something else. I created it and that's it. Or talk to me again. I got my money and that's all that matters.
What a guy.
Yeah.
There's so many awesome just people in the world of
I know, why are they all so
in the world of fonts?
Strange.
Yeah. Someone should make a movie about fonts, about like, you know, the great
Comic Sans versus
Times New Roman. Yeah, like the great Times New Roman swindle of you know 1932 or whatever.
There's
and
another
like...
interesting fact later that has to do about it that I will question you about, and it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I don't know, but this is like the most boring topic we've ever talked about, but this is my favourite episode to record.
It's so confusing though, because like it's just hated so wildly. Like
Comic Sans.
Yeah, Comic Sans.
Yeah.
I hate it again just because I think it was because it was so overused, and that is one reason that this Wikipedia page talks about a lot is why people dislike it so much is because it was used far too frequently and often for things that shouldn't have been done. Like
I just don't understand why people hate it so much. Like, why do you hate it? Just because it's overused?
It looks like butt crap. It's weirdly curvy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't like it. But, you know, I don't hate it. It is what it is. But then again,
Yeah, it's crap.
Vincent Conair will have something to say to me about that.
He invented it for the reason to be used for information documents and children's materials.
Okay.
So he wanted it to be implemented in like manuals and things.
But why manuals? Isn't it supposed to be because it's based on comic books and stuff?
It is based on comic books. Specifically,
I understand the children's material, but
the comic book artist Dave Gibbons.
Yeah.
He was the inspiration for the font.
That's awesome.
And he actually said, a shame they couldn't have just used the original font because Comic Sans is a real mess. I think it's a particularly ugly letter form.
Wait, who said that? Dave Gibbons.
Dave Gibbons, the inspiration to the font.
Even he hates it.
So like,
he's the guy
Vincent Conair was just like, "Oh, Dave Gibbons, I made a
font
for you," and he's like, "It's ugly,
it's shit,
and I hate it, mess."
He did the art for Watchmen.
Oh,
yeah, the graphic novel.
I don't like Watchmen.
And the Secret Service, which was Kingsman, the movie.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
I like
he
him
did
now.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of arguments saying that the typeface should match the tone of its text, and that Comic Sans is often at odds with a serious message. As again, being on signs out the front door saying "Do not enter," things like this, it just seems too friendly and comical where it should be, where it's trying to be serious and stuff. For in like the information documents and stuff. Like, again, I think with textbooks at school and stuff, like, you're reading about science and you don't want to read about in Comic Sans.
Yeah,
I guess it tried to be more friendly and be like hip and stuff, but it just came off as like annoying.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be a bit more inviting to read.
It was
rather than just like, really dry kind of old-fashioned sort of generic textbook text. They're trying to make it a bit more
like, you know in the Simpsons episode where Homer voices that dog on the Itchy and Scratchy show?
Oh, Poochie. Yeah.
Poochie. It's the Poochie of
it's the Poochie of types.
Like, tried to be cool and hip, ended up being a huge dick, and had to go back to his own planet, and now everyone hates it.
I have to go back to my home planet now. No, it's just like, I have to go now. My home planet needs me.
But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of cool, fun facts about Comic Sans. Most of them revolve around the fact that people just hate it.
Even the guy who created it, and the guy who it was based on,
yep.
and everyone who's ever come into contact with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hates it.
There have been instances of people...
Mass gang violence?
Yep.
I think if you're out there and you start writing in Comic Sans and you love it, I think do it. Because I think there is a place for every...
Whoa. Okay.
There's a place for every typeface out there.
It's one thing for me to say go commit murder. It's another thing for you to say go use Comic Sans, okay?
I think there's a time and a place for every typeface, maybe except for the weird dog sex guy.
Yeah.
Just don't use his.
Is that even in?
I'm gonna have a look.
Word?
I'm searching in Word right now just to see.
What was his one again?
Gil. Oh, there it is. Gil Sans. Oh no,
it
you
looks
can
like a
tell.
pedophile.
You can tell.
It's weirdly small.
His religious views and subject matter are generally viewed as being at odds with his sexual behavior, including his erotic art and alleged sexual abuse of his daughters, sisters, and dog.
Okay. So he's everything.
Not a great guy, basically. He's
everything.
basically just a massive douche.
Everything. Was the dog female? Or was he gay?
Why does that matter?
I don't know.
Why does that matter?
I'm intrigued.
Don't be intrigued. You'd think they would have gotten rid of that by now, but apparently it's a really popular font, so I don't know.
Is it? Because it didn't look nice.
It didn't look nice,
It ain't no Times New Roman or Liberation Serif.
Yeah,
Thank
or
you.
Calibri Body.
Yeah, anything, it's still better than Comic Sans.
Anyway, should we do some quiz time or what?
Yeah, alright.
Alright.
Do you want to throw me your one, or should I
Yeah,
throw you mine?
I'll throw you mine.
Alright.
First question. What is an interrobang?
Oh my god.
And it's not a family reunion with Gil Sans.
Oh.
Question. Answer number 1. 1/2 of an ampersand. 2. A question mark that is twice the size of the line at the end of which it appears. Or 3. A mixture of an exclamation mark and a question mark.
I'm gonna go with... Since we're talking about fonts, I don't think that first one's a font. It's just half of a symbol.
Yeah.
What's the third one?
Third one was a mixture of an exclamation mark and a question mark.
Again, that sounds like a symbol, so I'm going with the middle one.
You think it's a question mark that is twice the size of the line at the end of which it appears?
Yeah.
Incorrect.
Oh,
I finally beat you. No, an interrobang is a mixture of an exclamation mark and a question mark.
That's not even a thing. Wait,
Apparently it
do you
is.
mean when like at the end of a sentence you do a
No, it's
exclamation mark and then a question mark?
no, it's actually the two combined. I'll show you.
That's not a thing. No, that isn't.
Let's have a look. There it is.
Also, why is it called this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like interro is obviously interrogate, so that's question, and bang is just like whoo.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like interrobang.
Yeah, okay, alright. That makes
But
sense.
you'd think
It
it
just
would be
sounds
like
weird.
questionation or something, or like
And would you think that?
no. Interrobang.
Mation point.
Mation point. So apparently, yeah, the exclamation mark is known in the jargon of printers and programmers as a bang. So
okay.
this glyph is a superimposition of these two marks.
So,
It was first proposed in 1962 by Martin K. Spector.
oh,
He's a Bond villain.
He's evil, yeah.
He created that there's actually a secret Nazi code.
inside of it.
Inside that interrobang.
Yeah. So all my questions, 2 of them, revolve around Comic Sans.
Okay, good.
Number 1, when was Comic Sans invented? 1985, 2003, or 1994?
What was the first one? 1980.
5.
You see, 1985, I'm going to straight up say that that's it, because I feel like that was the time when
People were doing drugs.
people were doing drugs, people who thought crazy things would be good and weren't. No, it seems like a kind of strange artistic decision to take something that's like a typeface, something that's considered droll and, functional, and turn it into some weird sort of artistic movement like Andy Warhol style. So I will say that is a product of the 80s.
You'd be wrong.
Wrong. 1994.
But the 90s, yes, also had a lot of that as well. A lot of people thinking things would be cool, like denim on denim.
Yeah, that's true.
And weird hair.
And parachute pants.
Yep, just everything that is horrible.
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay.
So, no, 1994 it was. Again, created by Vinci.
Yep, Vinci. Yep,
Yep.
Vincent Conair,
Yep,
as we
yep.
call him.
As his name is.
As his name is.
Alright, give me a second question.
Okay, my second question is, there is a font made up entirely of ampersands. True or false?
Ampersands. What? Well, like different looking ampersands.
I honestly don't know. I'm assuming it's just the same ampersand. Would it make it better if they were different sized ampersands? Would it make it
I'm gonna say true,
any more
'cause
sensical?
otherwise, why would you make that up? That's gotta be a thing. As stupid as it sounds, that was a creation of the 80s. 100%.
Ding ding ding, you are truly correct.
I am true. Yes!
There is a font. The font is called Coming Together.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, there it is.
Oh my...
It is all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, it's literally just every different other font.
You can
Fonts, ampersand, next to each other.
You can buy it for $26.99.
I'll spit on it for less.
So this is from the website something myfonts.com. Coming Together contains over 400 glyphs and is supplied as a single cross-platform open type font.
It was made by like 20 people. Was that saying who bought it?
No, nearly 400 designers contributed to Coming Together. The first one is Adam Humphries.
There's not even that many letters in the alphabet. Like, what do you need that many ampersands for?
I know, that's bizarre.
Damn you, Xavier Dupre.
Xavier Dupre. Stefan Kjartansson. Scott Fisk. These designers represented the following countries: Argentina, Australia. Hey! Well, there we go.
Wow.
That was my question. So do you have another question for me?
That was truly
eye-opening.
pointless. Okay, so this one's this one's weird. Okay, in the 2005 session of the Youth Model Parliament in Ontario, the new Democratic Party included the clause... Clause? Yeah. My writing is
included
so stupid.
the claw.
Oh.
It's just the claw from Inspector Gadget, just like, I have gathered you all here today
No, I was thinking of
in Ontario.
The claw from
Liar, yeah.
Included the clause ban the font known as Comic Sans. Is this true or false?
All right. So, sorry, what was the gathering? What was the meeting? Who were the people? What was the group? What were the thing?
2005 session of the Youth Model Parliament in Ontario, the new Democratic Party. So it was the new Democratic Party offered this clause called ban the font known as Comic Sans in their meeting, or whatever it is, at the Youth Model Parliament in 2005.
That's way too specific for you to just make that up. So I'm going to say yes, that happened.
Yes, it is!
Yay!
I don't know what any of those words meant, Except ban the font known as Comic Sans.
I can get behind that 100%.
They got my vote.
The Youth Parliament of 2005 in Ontario. I'm signing that petition.
How old was I?
In 2005. Yeah, well, you were born in 1998, so you're 7.
Yeah, I would have still voted.
Damn.
I would have lied, I would have voted. But yes, that was a real thing. A whole actual political movement went forth saying, we don't like Comic Sans.
But they were just the children's group.
Youth Model Parliament.
Youth Model Parliament. So they were just like...
Democratic Party.
It was like the Model UN or whatever. Like, it was just a group of kids pretending to be...
Politics is politics, alright? Okay? Let's not... That's pretty much what Trump is right now.
Just a small child pretending to be in charge of a country.
Exactly.
Well, that pretty much concludes our story for today about fonts. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. And we're done. And we have some sad news, unfortunately. Today is the last episode of this season, at least, hopefully, of Joe and Sophie Tell a Tale. So, basically, me and Soph just wanted to give a big shout out to everyone and just say, thanks for listening. Thanks for following along with our sometimes nonsensical diatribes that we, do. Yeah, you guys have been great. Thanks for listening. And hopefully we'll be coming back to your podcast station soon with a brand new batch of exciting episodes. So this is it for the main Joe and Sophie Tell a Tale story, sort of chat episodes. But of course, you can definitely join us this coming Tuesday, for our final mini-sode, which is called Joe and Sophie Solve a Crime. And it's a bit of a meta story where Sophie and myself go on a crazy adventure and solve a crime in Los Angeles. And it's a whole lot of fun. I wrote the story, and, me and Soph provide the voices in it, and we've got a couple of other cameos and a couple of other good voice actors in there. So, yeah, it was really fun to record, and hopefully it will be really fun to listen to. So, join us on Tuesday for that. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and join us next time.
With a new mystery subject. Because we don't know what it is yet.
Yes, that's right. All right. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Sophie.
And we'll catch you all next time. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.